So if there's one thing that we have learned throughout time is that if there's something that a group of people or the majority of people love and enjoy and have serious cases of nostalgia about, it will take almost no effort for a corporation like Netflix or like Hulu or whatever, or these big corporations that like take over the gaming sphere, like how Twitch is done and all these things. It will take no effort for these corporations to see that these can be used to be sort of a cash grab or something that they can make millions and millions of dollars off of and take over something without even understanding anything about the show. Now, the thing I'm referring to is how Netflix has just took over Avatar the Last Airbender, so they're making an Avatar live action, even though we know the last time we tried this, it bombed with the movie. But from what we've seen, like visually, the show looks amazing.
We're really fighting for the ones we love.
I'm the Avatar, and I'm gonna save the world.
The problem is the people who are directing the story of the show seem to have no true understanding of the show at all. It seems almost like these corporations, when they pick up these projects, they have never actually watched anything of these projects. And it seems like whenever the original author or the people who are working with them try to show them that, hey, this is the format from A to Z, it worked out, this is why we were successful, these corporations go, nah, I can make it better. So the problem is now Avatar, from start to finish of the Airbender series, people can say this is what made it great. These corporations looked at that and said, we're gonna make some changes. Now, the things that they're changing is why I feel like they haven't actually watched the show or even understand any of the reasoning for the things that happen with the show. The first red flag is that they're saying that, oh, they want this Avatar to be able to attract the many audiences of the Game of Thrones franchise. Why would Avatar relate to anything in Game of Thrones? Barely anybody actually died in the story besides like the air nomads and stuff like that, but the characters weren't killing people. The show is about one character on his journey of maturity, realizing that he has to be the savior of these nations and he has to provide balance. I don't understand what a Game of Thrones person would want in a show like this, especially since this show used to air on a children's network like Nickelodeon. So what in Game of Thrones is resonating that they need this to happen? They're first talking about they want to make the show a serialized drama. Avatar, it had dramatic moments for sure, but I wouldn't classify it as a drama. I would classify it as an adventure / comedy, because the whole show is a child doing child things, and as the story progresses, it becomes more and more serious as he begins to start to bear the weight of the things going around him. Yes, there was tons of serious moments in the show, but it was more of a comedy that had drama mixed into it, but the main focus was the adventure, the comedy, and just watching these characters develop. Telling it into a serialized drama like Game of Thrones, you're going to create tension in parts of the story that never existed, or you're going to completely take the reason why we loved the show overall and make it into a soap opera, which is bullcrap. Because first off, the reason why these dramatic moments in the show were able to resonate with people so much, like for instance Uncle Iroh and his connection with Zuko and the things that he went through, is because even though there's this lighthearted and there's all this comedy and all that stuff, when it got down to the serious moments, because we're so used to these comedic moments, those deep moments were even heavier because everything came into it and it was a lesson inside of it.
I know my own destiny, Uncle.
Is it your own destiny? Or is it a destiny someone else has tried to force on you?
Stop it, Uncle. I have to do this.
I'm begging you, Prince Zuko. It's time for you to look inward and begin asking yourself the big questions. Who are you? And what do you want?
So them doing that completely just eliminates that. If you have too many serious moments, when a deep serious moment happens, everybody's gonna be like, okay, what's different from this scene versus the other 50 scenes of drama we just watched? Another problem is they're removing things in the story that are gonna make big plot holes. Now, we all know that in Aang's story, Aang wakes up in the iceberg because he tried to avoid being the Avatar. He didn't want the burden of it. Well, they're taking that out. So Aang no longer is in pursuit of, you know, trying to flee and be a child. They've made him more of like a serious protagonist, that he's seeing visions of things that need to happen, and he's going to the Water Tribe to actually stop the Fire Nation invasion, which doesn't make sense because he didn't even know about the invasion until later on. They took that out. They're taking out all the comedic detours, like when he went to go ride the elephants and stuff like that, and they're going to try to get everything from, he's going from point A to point B. Now, the reason why this is a big flag for people who actually enjoyed the show is all the childish things that Aang was doing was the reason why he didn't want to be the Avatar to begin with. He didn't get to be a child. He didn't get to enjoy the things of life because it was always super serious for him.
We made up a game you can play with the air scooters. Great! What's going on?
Now that you're the Avatar, it's kind of an unfair advantage for whichever team you're on.
But I'm still the same. Nothing's changed. So what? I can't play?
That's the only fair way.
Oh, okay.
So he couldn't handle it. And as he left and went through what he went through and met Sokka and Katara and all his friends, he was able to mature along the way until he was ready to accept what he had to do. He didn't just immediately be like, I'm saving the world no matter what. He ran from it. A lot of stuff that happened in the story was coincidence that he ran into, but he just so happened to be the person that can solve the problems that they ran into. Another part is they're taking Sozin's comet out of the first season. Now we know the reason why the Fire Nation was able to attack the water tribes like that, the greatest water tribe, which I believe was either the northern, it was the northern water tribe. The reason why they were able to invade is because Sozin's comet gave firebenders enough power, if like a buff perhaps, to be able to be stronger in their bending and not rely on other resources to provide them with fire. Sozin's comet is essentially the super power up that allowed them to be able to invade nation as strong as the Northern Water Tribe. You taking that out, it doesn't make sense, because now if they don't have this thing that makes them super powerful and a super threat, why would they think that they can suddenly handle the Water Tribe, even though the Water Tribe was a powerful tribe? The Northern Water Tribe was basically an empire in its own self, and especially since they're surrounded by water. Removing Sozin's comet in the first season is gonna make everything even more confusing when it happens again in the last season. Sozin's comet is a reoccurring thing. That's why people have to hurry up and get stuff done before the comet comes, because when the comet's on screen, guess what? They can't stop the firebenders, or it's extremely difficult. You getting rid of that just makes no sense. Now, the final thing that I want to point out is something that actually is even more disconnected from anything, is another character change that they're doing with Sokka. They're taking Sokka out of his misogynistic, sexist phase, and they want to tone it down. Now, we know the thing about Sokka that makes Sokka one of everybody's favorite characters is, one, Sokka does not have any traits besides he is intelligent. He doesn't have any traits to distinguish him from other people in the cast, right? He doesn't have fire bending. He doesn't have any bending. He barely knows any martial arts until he starts meeting the Kyoshi warriors, until he learns how to make his sword. So he is comedic relief, but he's also a serious tone because he's flawed. The whole purpose of that character is he's flawed. He's not perfect. He's lacking in certain areas. Sokka being sexist was one of the main reasons that he was having a disconnect with so many characters in the show, because he was told that he's a man, he needs to be the ultra leader warrior guy, even though his sister was a talented waterbender. Him going to Kyoshi Island and looking down on female warriors is a major point in his character arc. He needed it to happen because it allowed him to humble himself, and also he learned true martial arts from the Kyoshi warriors. But the only reason why he struggled with that arc is because of his misogyny. He had to learn that you can't look down on women so he could become a better warrior. Then removing that and saying we had to tone it down, it takes the impact of the lesson he had to learn from their training. because now if he's just going to be sitting there glorifying them and honoring them and being so, oh, they're amazing, you guys are just wonderful warriors and all that stuff, it's not going to make sense because he's not going to be humbled. He's going to learn the life lesson he needs to learn going forward from the story, because he's going to fight more and more female characters in the series. He needs that Kyoshi Island humbling to be Sokka. So them just taking that out, it just ruins everything. So one thing I'm just gonna point out, I'm gonna end it off here, is it sucks because they take things that we really enjoy and turn it into corporate speak. That's why video games are not hitting as good as they are. That's why TV shows are not as entertaining as they are. That's why even now these live actions, the only one that I've actually been able to enjoy so far was the One Piece one. And even then, I only enjoyed it just because I hate One Piece. I wanted it to fail so bad, it actually ended up being really good. So at the end of the day, we as people got to get used to the fact that if we're going to keep allowing these big corporates to dip their hand and just control the things that we love, we got to understand that these things are not for us. It's not for people who enjoyed the original show. It's for people who know nothing about the show and they just want something to watch. The casual viewer, not the honest fan. All right, guys.